We are bringing it to an end. We are bringing the debt restructuring to an end.
We have fresh details from the international bondholder groups as they demand transparency from government on its debt portfolio, with the requirement for Finance Ministry to publish its debt information twice a year. But is Ghana really saving a total of $10 billion from its bilateral and commercial debt restructuring?
He didn't check his calculation very well. He was trying to say that after the 37% haircut, the amount left for Ghana to pay on the Eurobond debt is $8.25 billion. If you really do the math very well, the figures does not tally based on what he said on the platform.
This is Top Story with Evans Mensah.
Well, fresh details are emerging tonight about government's successful restructuring of $13 billion worth of international debt. In the last couple of hours, it has emerged the government will now have to begin an aggressive campaign to secure buy-in of as many international bondholders as possible to ensure that Ghana can emerge from default. Now, bondholders will take as much as 37% haircut based on the agreement. We have details of additional requirements government must comply with as part of this deal shortly. But first, listen to the Finance Minister, Mohamed Amin Adam, announce how much savings government stands to make from the deal.
One of the conditions was that Ghana had to do what we call debt operation. We had to go and restructure our debts because our debts were considered unsustainable. I want to announce, for those of you who are interested in the debt restructuring, which has become Ghana's most difficult problem for the past 2-3 years, we are bringing it to an end. We are bringing the debt restructuring to an end. Last 2 weeks, we concluded negotiation with the official creditors, and we've agreed to restructure $5.1 billion. And I'm telling you, your government is good in negotiation. Of the $5.1 billion, we are going to make a savings of about $2 billion. As I speak to you, tomorrow morning, there will be an announcement that we have also concluded our negotiation with the Eurobond holders, $13.1 billion. And ladies and gentlemen, when we announce it, please read the details. We have negotiated a good deal for Ghana that will save us $8 billion.
He's hopeful the conclusion of the program will signal a turning point for the economy.
And wait until the announcement. The confidence in our economy is going to come back stronger because the world is no longer interested in investing in Ghana because of those debt restructuring. After tomorrow, it will be a different story. Watch the CD to the dollar after tomorrow. I know you are interested in that story. Let's watch it and see. The confidence will come. The investors will return to Ghana. And the growth trajectory will even become clearer for all of us. So this election is an election for us to win. The NDC can no longer campaign on the economy. Our record is better than their record. On the size of the economy, we've done better than them. On per capita income, we've done better than them. On job creation, we've done better than them. On economic growth, we've done better than them. They say we went to IMF, but it's not easy to be under an IMF program because we've seen them before. When they were under IMF program, by 2016, they missed all the targets. So far, Ghana has become an example. We met all our prior conditions and the IMF praised us and disbursed $600 million. This economy will grow, and it will grow faster than everybody thinks. By the end of this year, we are supposed to grow at 3.2%. But I can tell you, we'll grow at 5% or even more than 5%. This is because of the pragmatic policies we are implementing as a government. And so don't let anybody talk you down. You should raise your head up and you know that your government is doing the right thing. We are bringing the economy back.
Well, my colleague Kofi Ajay is with me in the studio. We've been poring over a statement that we've seen in the last couple of hours coming in on this, giving us a bit more clarity on the offer on the table. I mean, this is not over by any stretch of the imagination, as we will detail for you pretty shortly, because government will have to now take this agreement to the individual bondholders to get their buy-in. We'll come to that pretty shortly. But what's the offer on the table?
Right, so Evans, the new agreement in principle, what they call the AIP, will allow investors to choose between two options. Now, option one is what they call the DISCO bonds, meaning discounted bonds at both principal and interest levels. Now, if you choose this option, if you are an investor and you choose this option, it means that you are choosing options will have. So if you're an investor who chooses this option, you have access to this offer. That will mean that you are going to suffer a haircut. Your interest will reduce from 5%, from the original amount, and when you proceed from 2028, you enjoy an interest of 6%. Maturities will be spread across 3 instruments ranging between 2026 and 2029. Now, ultimately, this will lead to a haircut or a write-down of principal of about 37%. Now, option 2 is what they call the par bonds, meaning new bonds will be sold at the original face value. Now, however, this option is capped at $1.6 billion with 3 instruments, of which the main one will pay a coupon of 1.5%, and to mature in 2037 with no haircut apart from a write-down on the past due interest. So these are the 2 options available to investors, depending on which one you choose to go with.
And this fundamental question is, so what's in this for Ghana?
So under this new agreement in principle, Evans, international bondholders will forgo approximately $4.7 billion of their claims and provide cash flow relief of approximately $4.4 billion during the IMF program period.
Okay, and that is important. You had the finance minister talk about a total of $10 billion savings, $2 billion from the discussions that they had and agreed in principle again with the bilateral creditors. And then he's talking about some $8 billion that will be saved from this agreement they've reached with the bondholders, international bondholders. But if you look at this specifically, what the bondholders are foregoing and what we expect to save, there's a slight difference there. So they are foregoing $4.7 billion, and then this will provide some cash flow for us, a savings of $4.4 billion. But let's be clear, this will be for the period we are still under the IMF program. So this is ending 2026. So there is the anticipation that beyond the IMF program, savings will continue because the bonds that we are talking about stretch all the way to 2030s. And that's one of the clarifications that we'll seek pretty shortly. Now, let's talk about another very important issue that we are beginning to get some clarity about. We understand that there have been a series of meetings now between the government of Ghana, the IMF, and the various steering committees. What was the outcome?
So, Evans, if you look at the arrangement that you're talking about, the meetings, there's the International Steering Committee of the Ad Hoc Creditor Committee of the International Bondholders. They hold about 40% of the Ghana's external debt. And we also have the second group, which is the Regional Steering Committee of the regional bondholders. They hold about 15% of the outstanding international debt. That what we know is that if you look at these meetings and what has been agreed, the IMF is actually in line with this, and they believe that by the end of this month, when this program is taken to the IMF will agree with it because the staff believe that this agreement is in principle with the parameters of the program.
And let's talk about something that's also very critical. It's similar to what we saw with the domestic debt exchange. Now that the agreement has been reached now with the 2 main international bondholder groups, government now must begin what they're calling the consent solicitation. That is getting the consent of the individual bondholders to this deal.
Now, this I read says the agreement in principle contemplates a consent solicitation process to amend the bonds and an exchange offer for new series of bonds, just like what we had in the DDP, under the DDP. So the formal launch of the consent solicitation is expected in the upcoming weeks, subject to agreement on definitive documentation.
Okay, so that's one of the things that government will need to conclude now, and the timelines giving is upcoming week. So we don't have clarity as to when that will begin, but they need to now take this agreement to individual bondholders who must then accept or reject the offer. At the end of the day, you want as many people as possible to accept the offer. Then you can come to some conclusion that your debt burden has significantly been taken care of. But you also find in there some requirements that the international bondholders are placing on government now. One relates to the debt and the transparency with which government approaches and reports on our debt portfolio is going to become very critical going forward.
So definitely there's an obligation on the part of government to publish a certain, public debt information on a semi-annual basis. So it means every 6 months, twice a year, government will have to publish this information to ensure transparency for the bondholders to have that form of confidence that government is being transparent under this new deal.
And that is important. Plus, there's also a requirement that government must ensure that certain other creditors do not receive better net present value terms.
So here you are talking about the comparability of treatment, option.
And that is important. But also, this all feeds into the next IMF board review, right, which is scheduled for 28th of this month, because all this will come before the IMF. And as we now been told, this agreement is in keeping with the IMF program parameters.
So yes, over the past week, the government and representatives of the two steering committees that we made mention held constitutive, IMF meetings with the IMF staff, and we are learning that the IMF staff have confirmed that the agreement is actually in principle with their comparability of treatment option, and it's comparable with their, parameters under the program. But this assessment will have to be officially confirmed following the IMF board meeting this month for approval of the second review. So if everything is done, the final say will be by the IMF executive board when they meet this month.
Okay, and I want to bring in right now Professor Peter Quartey. He's the director for Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research, ISA, joins us on the line right now. Prof, thanks for your time here on Top Story.
My pleasure. Good evening to your discerning listeners.
Also joining me tonight is the ranking member on Parliament Finance Committee, Isaac Adongo, also joins me. Hello, Mr. Adongo. Thanks for your time here on Top Story.
Thank you, and good evening to your listeners.
Prof. Quartey, give me your quick reaction to this announcement. We're expecting this formal announcement to come. It's now here. We know a bit more about this deal. How are you reading this?
Well, this announcement brings some level of certainty to the market, because we've been waiting for this for far too long. Many investors, both individual and corporate investors, have been waiting for this news. And, uncertainty affects the financial market. Financial system doesn't like noise, it doesn't like uncertainty. And so for me, it clears the way for many things to happen. More inflows may come in. It also will clear the way for people to invest properly, and also it would certainly have some positive effects on the exchange rate and by extension inflation. So there's some certainty. Apart from that, we could talk about other benefits that this could bring. But of course, we also have to sign a caution that we shouldn't celebrate this and go, and spend beyond reasonable limits and be back to where we have been in the past. So it's not much as it's good news for Ghana. We also have to be responsible going forward.
You listen to the finance minister there. It's very clear that we are making a savings of 10 billion. That has been questioned, by the way, considering that for the bilateral deal that we signed with, the bilateral creditors, it is deferred till 2026. So you pay it in full. Is that a view shared too, that the savings that we are talking about of $2 billion, for example, from the bilateral creditors may not be exactly what it is?
Unfortunately, I don't have the figures to confirm this, but whatever the figure is, there is going to be some savings, and that savings is certainly going to be help us release some funds to other critical areas. A lot of roads have been, have stalled. A lot of projects have stalled. So there's going to be savings. It's positive news for Ghana, and I think we should ride on the back of this. But I'm yet to get the fine details and yet to confirm these figures.
And Mr. Adongo, is this something that you expect now that we are almost at the end of the road now with the restructuring of bilateral and commercial creditors? You expect it to come before Parliament for scrutiny and approval?
Well, the truth is that the whole IMF program should have come to Parliament by now. I don't know why they decided to avoid that. But this is an international business transaction from which the Article 1815 makes it clear that it requires parliamentary approval. We are already receiving some monies in reliance on that agreement without the Parliament of Ghana having approved such a business transaction. And I don't know why they did that. But let me say that I listened to the finance minister and I was scandalized. You are celebrating the fact that you have received a certificate that clearly declares you as a bankrupt country. You are celebrating a bankrupt certificate. Who celebrates that? Who celebrates the fact that it is now clear and crystallized that you are a man of straw, you cannot pay your debts? And you're celebrating that and saying that on the basis of that bankruptcy status, you are better than the previous government. How do you make that comparison? The moment you declare that you were bankrupt, you couldn't pay your debt, and you were going around begging the people to forgive you your debt, several aspects of comparisons of the two economies cease to exist. We could no longer compare debt. We can no longer compare rate of debt accumulation. We can no longer compare debt to GDP because you simply don't have any. Okay? One of the biggest challenges that any economy faces is the ability to keep your sovereignty. And your sovereignty is what the people rely on in order to trust your country and give you loans. You entered into agreement with people, took their money, and they had the trust that your government will fulfill that. You went back to them and said, I was deceiving you, there's no way I can pay you. And you are celebrating that now and comparing that to a government that remained and kept our sovereignty intact. A government that consistently serviced its debts. A government that grew the economy after paying its debt and servicing its international debts. A government that was able to still stabilize the city upon the fact that it was still meeting its external debt obligations and foreign exchange requirements to meet those obligations. You are not doing that. What is going to happen now is that the debt that you were supposed to pay, your debt service, you are simply going to keep it. You are not going to pay. It's not as if they are bringing you any new money, but you are not going to pay. And you remember that the conversation is around when those payments are going to be made. Those payments are going to be made by a different government. You are not going to pay those debts. You will not be in government in 2025, 2026, 2017, 2027, up to 2029. And yet you are piling up debts and postponing payments to a future government. I expect that we should be announcing an aggressive program to make sure that those monies that we are saving are used to build buffers in the sinking fund and make sure that Ghana has those resources available when the debt falls due, so that we are able to service them.
Mr. Adongo, you talk about savings. I mean, isn't that why, considering that where we are coming from, the black hole we're in, this is at least something worth mentioning, considering that it places us back on the path to growth? The bondholders themselves talk about taking a cut of $4.7 billion and giving us a cash flow of $4.4 billion within the IMF program period. That's certainly a positive thing, is it not? Hello, Mr. Adongo.
Yes, you said the bondholders themselves talk about what?
Talk about how much cut they are taking because of the successful negotiations that Ghana has led with them, $4.7 billion, and then an additional providing a cash flow now from what we are talking about, a relief of approximately $4.4 billion. Isn't that worth celebrating?
Well, I don't know what that is. If you decide as a country to declare yourself bankrupt, there's nothing to celebrate. In fact, a man of straw has nothing to celebrate. You are a man of pity. You cannot be trusted. You have simply come to say that, yes, even though we promised you, we took your money, we misused the money, and we are here, we can't pay you. How do you celebrate that? The cost to the country is the perpetual damage to the image of our country in the international capital market. That cannot be quantified. That initial savings that you are calling is at a point where, as a result of your misconduct, the capital market is wary of you and has closed the market on you. And you cannot be celebrating this one. You cannot be celebrating this level of disgrace and humiliation of your country. Unless otherwise you don't understand what that means. But if a whole country, when you were in school, I'm sure you were taught that government debt is, risk-free. Were you not taught that government debt is risk-free?
Risk-free. Yeah,
They've
it's a
come to
standard.
reverse all that principle. Today, it is much riskier to give money to government than to give it to Isaac Adongo. What does that give you? The things that you learned in school. This is the only government now in our lifetime that has taught us that government debt is not risk-free after all, and that government can be more careless and reckless than anybody else. And that is what has brought us here. Today, we are celebrating people that we have gone to beg with cap in hand to forgive us our debts. Is that the level of celebration from people who told us that it was actually a crime to go to the IMF? And that going to IMF epitomizes incompetence. What this tells us is that they were not even qualified to be on the program. Without going to declare themselves bankrupt, they were not qualified to have an IMF program. Can you remember any government in our history that ever went to IMF and they were not qualified to receive funding unless they went back and begged their creditors to forgive them their debts? Can you ever remember?
Mr. Dongo, please stay with me. There's something you raised that I want to pick the thoughts of Professor Peter Quartey on. Prof, he raised the point about the savings you're making right now, putting it in a buffer, because we anticipate that 2 years down the line, after 2026 at least, we will resume servicing our debt. What do you make of that?
Yeah, the point has been made time and time and again that we ought to create a sinking fund or an escrow account, whichever name you call it, because all the debts have been restructured and they ought to be paid. You cannot wait till maturity date before you start looking for money. So if you're making savings now, you could decide to put part in this sinking fund, and as you grow the economy, I think it's better to also use part to grow the economy, make some savings, and put this in an escrow account or sinking fund, and be able to plan and service the debt. In addition to that, we ought to ensure some fiscal prudence. That is why we call for the Fiscal Responsibility Act to be reviewed and ensure that we stay within reasonable limits. We'd also have to set a cap on our debt ceiling to match the ECOWAS level at least. So it comes to when it's time for repayment, we are certainly ready to pay. So we don't always go back asking for restructuring, asking for debt forgiveness. It's not the best. It creates a lot of uncertainty on the minds of investors, on the minds of people. But having said that, I don't think Ghana is the only country in this challenge. There are several, or quite a number of African countries facing these debt issues. It's just that we think we could have managed things slightly better than we did. But nevertheless, we were faced with COVID, we were faced with other external shocks. Other countries also faced it. And we find ourselves in this precarious situation. But the good news is that we're gradually reducing our debt levels. We are gradually seeing some certainty on the market. And I think we should ride at the back of this, given that the economy is also growing at a fairly decent rate. So based on that, we should look forward and be able to manage the economy properly. We should learn from our mistakes. I think we've made some mistakes in the past, but that shouldn't stop us from moving forward, from growing the economy, from ensuring fiscal prudence, for ensuring that we don't accumulate debt. If we borrow at all, we should channel most of these funds into productive activities. We should not or never borrow to consume. That is not the best way to use borrowed funds.
Professor Peter Quartey, thank you very much. Mr. Adongo, do you expect now, Parliament is in session, now that agreements have now been reached in principle, the IMF board sits on the 28th, do you expect to be briefed as Parliament on these agreements?
We expect the entire agreement to be laid, and all other agreements consequent to that original agreement should be laid. Not just briefed, they should be laid before Parliament, for Parliament to do its oversight work and approve those transactions, so that they can receive the blessing of the people of Ghana. As it is now, these actions are being conducted illegally, particularly in violation of our Constitution, Article 1815. That has to be rectified immediately.
Thank you very much, Isaac Adongo. He's a ranking member on the Finance Committee in Parliament. And talking about this agreement that we're learning a bit more about. I want to bring in Mark Bedu-Abuaji, the CEO of the Ghana Chamber of Commerce and Industry. They've been very concerned about the negotiations because of its potential to affect investor confidence in the country. He joins me right now. Mr. Bedu-Abuaji, thanks for your time here on Top Story. So we're getting a bit more about this agreement, huge savings. If you limiting yourself strictly to what is in the document we've cited, some 4.4 billion relief to Ghana, but also the potential for this now to help with the investor confidence. What's your own take as far as industry is concerned on the back of these agreements we've reached, both with our bilateral and commercial creditors?
Well, for me, I think it's a good news. One thing that we have been complaining about is the uncertainties that we have in our economy. And this has been, the uncertainties have been absent for quite some time now. So for every rational investor, they will sit down and wait and see what will happen. So those who possibly would have want to invest in the economy will now be sitting down on the fence and looking at whether the principals and interests of those who have already invested and they are going through the restructuring will be paid. So once we are certain about it, of course, it means that any rational investor will now have a positive view of our economy, and now we'll be able to take a decision on whether to invest or not. But of course, we have those who are also risk-averse individuals or investors who, in spite of this positive news, will look out for options. Because once we go through a restructuring, it means that there is something fundamentally wrong. It means that we are not able to pay both our principal and also the interest. So for a risk-averse person, if there is any option anywhere in any country that he thinks that when he invests, he's going to get his principal and interest at the right time, then that individual will take up that decision. But it is good for us. I mean, we have people who call and were questioning what is happening in the economy. When are we going to see certainty and stability in the economy? I think those individuals will now think twice and decide to invest in the economy. The other good news is that, in fact, businesses have suffered a lot from the depreciation of the cedi. And this information will send a right signal that at least we move forward with that. Those who are keeping the cedi, speculating that it will depreciate further so they can cash in, I think they will now take a second look at it and then bring in those cedis to dollars to stabilize the local currency. So I'm expecting that with this information, the cedi will have some positive results. It will stabilize and, if possible, appreciate in the not too distant future. At least in the few weeks, those speculators will now bring in their dollars that they have hoard or kept under their bed, and it will show up the supply of the foreign currency in the economy. So it's a good news for us as businesses. The certainty, that is what we require. I think we are going to get it with this information. So for businesses, we are happy. But as has already been said, it doesn't mean that we have been forgiven. It means that this money, the principal and interest that we have to pay, we have deferred the payment until later date, which means that we will pay one day. So whatever decision we are taking now, whatever policies we are taking now, we should have it at the back of our mind that in the next 2-3 years, these monies are going to be paid. We don't want to get to a situation where the cedi will suffer like the way we are experiencing now. The impact on businesses is just too much, and businesses are collapsing. So going forward, whatever benefits we have gotten, whatever relief that have come out of this restructuring, I think we should put it into good use. We should look at the productive sector. This is the sector that will help us to generate the revenue to be able to pay for the loans that we have taken. Where do we invest the loans? If we take a loan from the Eurobond market, which is a commercial facility with a high interest rate, and if you don't invest it in the revenue-generating sector, we always find ourselves in the situation that we are in now. We borrow from the Eurobond market and invest in businesses that will not generate the revenue for us, so we are not able to pay. So going forward, I think we have learned lessons. Whatever relief that we have gotten, we should put it into good use. We should look at the agricultural sector.
Yeah, and that's definitely questions that we'll be asking of the Finance Ministry once we get to interrogate the details a bit more. Mark Bidu-Aboagye, thank you very much. He's the CEO of the Ghana Chamber of Commerce and Industry, raising a few questions, but also giving us the thoughts of industry on the back of the major announcement in the last couple of hours that agreement with our international bondholders has been reached in principle, awaiting the June 28th meeting of the IMF board. Newsnight now.
Good evening and welcome to Newsnight. Tonight, Attorney General Godfred Yeboah-Dame incurs royal for opposition NDC, who are tearing into him over the ongoing ambulance procurement trial after the AG described the NDC's claims against him as lies and deception.
2 days when we started our cross-examination of the person who was spreading all those lies, you see how the matter is going. The case has come, as the president will say, case now Tunsu.
Instead of him demonstrating humility and apologizing to the people of this country, he's out there engaged in theatrics and sophism. Who is telling a lie?
We have details plus hear from a legal practitioner on whether the Attorney General speaking about the testimony of a witness in an ongoing trial borders on misconduct. Also tonight, Tamale High Court orders Kabiru Mahama from holding himself as NPP candidate for Wale Wale as resolution talks break down nearly 6 months after the election. We'll get to hear from the aggrieved Dr. Kabiru, who is praying the case will be expedited.
The grant of such a relief interlocutory injunction will disadvantage me and will cause irreparable damage to my cause, as it were, in trying to represent the New Patriotic Party.
And as the Finance Ministry gears up to bail out customers of the banking sector cleanup, some victims of the financial sector reforms recount unnerving stories of how they had to sell their properties and take up low-paying jobs in order to survive.
I don't want to mention the specific, but trust me, my cash value could buy me as much as 5 containers. Then I have to sell my personal properties and so on to defray the cost.
And as of now that I'm speaking with you, 4 years down the line, I've not received any money.
And in our Festy Community series tonight, we're filling in on the struggles the residents of Sagnarogu face in their quest to have access to the priceless commodity.
This is the only water that we have. And it is dirty. During rainy season that we get it, and dry season we don't have water.
If you come from delivery, there's no water for you to use.
And in business, government expects cedi to firmly stabilize against US dollar following deal with Eurobond holders.
And much later, Italy faces Croatia in a crucial encounter tonight in the Euros 2024. And don't forget that we are getting ready for Joy News Impact Makers Awards this weekend. We'll tell you more of that and more here on Newsnight. You may want to join us with your thoughts and comments via WhatsApp 055-111-997. I am Emefa Apau.
And my name is Evan Spencer.
I send them, you get them. I get them, I send them.
I get them.
I pay them.
Telesale cash.
I get them, I take them.
Telesale cash.
You get them.
I send them. Telesale cash.
I send them, you get them.
Telesale cash.
I get them.
I buy them, I take them.
I pay them. I send them.
Telesale cash. Telesale Cash.
Experience the ultimate convenience of sending money on Telesale Cash. Sending money from Telesale Cash to Telesale Cash is free. You can also make payments to merchants on all networks. Enjoy best value and total security with Telesale Cash.
Telesale. Connecting energies.
Join us this summer for the prestigious International Conference on Property Investment and Profit Making, the ultimate guide to financial freedom. Delve into the theme, how to earn and maximize passive income through commercial property investment in the United States. Mark your calendar for 29th and 30th October 2024 at Trump Towers International Hotel, Chicago, USA. Register now to secure your spot. Early bird registration ends 15 July and standard registration closes on July 30th, 2024. Registration starts start from $500 to $1,550, which allows you 2-night stay at Trump Towers Hotel Chicago, lunch buffet, welcome cocktail, conference ticket, and many more. For those in need of visa support to attend, visit our conference website on conference.chicagowestluxuryhomes.com and register to get an invitation, or call us on 0536 502295 for further information.
And you're live here on Newsnight on Joy 99.7 FM.
And it's 5 days to the Joy News Impact Makers Awards at the Accra International Conference Center. You're welcome. Let's start off from the court. And Attorney General Godfred Yeboah-Dame has been incurring the wrath of the NDC for describing the claims made against him by the opposition party as lies and deception.
Well, the AG is at the center of a storm following the release of a telephone conversation in which he's heard discussing the ongoing case with the third accused, Richard Jakpa, which the NDC say was an attempt by the AG to get the accused to incriminate the minority leader, Dr. Kaysela Tofosey.
Well, the recorded conversation and WhatsApp chats have since been admitted into evidence by the trial court. Well, speaking at a town hall meeting in the United Kingdom over the weekend, Godfred Dame said the allegations made against him have all crumbled after the state cross-examined Richard Jakpa in court. Listen.
So I'm saying that we should resist all the lies, deception, and deceit of the NDC. And indeed, that's their stock in trade. And I personally, I can attest to that. Yes, we've been around. We're in Ghana, and of course, we've been in UK. My brother who lives in London called me anxiously last time he entered a barber shop. And so, talking about the Attorney General. They didn't know that the Attorney General's brother was next in line for his head to be cut. And all that. So what's happening? This young gentleman that they admire and all that. But again, the lies, deception, and the deceit of the NDC was at work. Within a matter of 2 days, when we started our cross-examination of the person who was spreading all those lies, you see how the matter is going. The case has crumbled. As the president will say, case now turns. So indeed, we should resist the deception, lies, and deceit. They'll come with all kinds of visitation about every major action or step being taken by this government.
Well, that's the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Godfred Yeboah-Dame there. But reacting to these comments, Director of Legal Affairs of the NDC, Eduji Tamaklo, is also part of the legal team of the minority leader, Dr. Kaysela Tofosey, in the ongoing trial, described the AG as engaging in theatrics instead of apologizing for his alleged misconduct. He first spoke on Joy News Today with Aisha Ibrahim. Listen.
Attorney General does not appear to appreciate the gravity that his misconduct has caused that revered office. I mean, you see, you would expect that at this critical moment, the Attorney General will be sober and would have a very deep sense of reflection, but you won't have any from him. This is an Attorney General who, from 1992, no judge, I repeat, no judge had reason to strongly advise an Attorney General on what he should do or what he should not do. Today, he has obtained a dubious distinction as that Attorney General who had to be advised by a sitting judge on what he should do. Instead of him demonstrating humility and apologizing to the people of this country, he's out there engaged in theatrics and sophism. Who is telling a lie?
What Richard Jakpa and the NDC are saying about him are palpable lies. That's what he's saying, and deception.
This is a man who has been in Ghana. He could not say that the voice that the NDC played, right, was a deception and that it was not his voice. He now goes to London, and what does he say? Blabbing? Look, Aisha, in court, when the lawyers for first accused decided to have the audio recording, right, handed in everything, the Attorney General, acting through the Director of Public Prosecution, raised up what was the basis of the objection. It has nothing to do with the fact that the content of the tape, right, or the recording is a lie. Rather, they were saying it wasn't relevant, insufficient foundation has not been laid, and that now, even listening to this carefully, and that the Attorney General was recorded in violation of his rights under Article 18.2. Now, this same man now goes to London and says it is a lie. What part is a lie? What is it that he has done under cross-examination against the claim made by Richard Jakpa? It's regrettable.
I want to bring in Bobby Bansing. Is he a lawyer on the questions that have been raised about the propriety of the AG commenting on a live case in which he himself is prosecuting. Eduju Tamaklo also joins me right now as the Director of Legal for the NDC, also on the line with me. Let me start with Mr. Bansing. So we just had the AG there make categorical comments about, the cross-examination that, as you know, his department has been involved in since last week. You were a lawyer. Is that allowed?
Well, good evening, Evans. I think there's a very thin line between what the AG said and what my understanding is allowed in the context of a lawyer not making public comments, particularly to the media, in respect of a case that the lawyer is participating in. I think that we must note that the AG as a person is not on trial in that case. I think the judge, when one of her rulings on this matter, made it categorically clear that she does not have the jurisdiction to determine whether or not the Attorney General or a lawyer for that matter has misconducted himself or herself professionally or has acted unethically. We all know that there are appropriate forums for that issue to be ventilated. Now, the Attorney General is also the Minister of Justice, so he's also a political appointee. We cannot ignore the fact that the issue of the tape or the allegation made by Mr. Japa was first made public outside the courtroom by the NDC for obvious reasons. I'm struggling to, in terms of whether or not what the Attorney General said is ethical, I'm struggling to see how unethical it is. You can argue whether you think it is morally sound or not, but in terms of my understanding of the Legal Professions Act and the rules and ethics of the lawyers, because in the tape that you played, I did not hear him discussing the merits of the charges that have been laid against Mr. Jata or Mr. Atofort.
Because you hear, for example, say that you've had the cross-examination in a few days since we started. The case not to assume.
I believe that it is in the context of the allegations that have been made against the Attorney General personally. I think that was what he meant. That is my understanding. I stand to be corrected. That according to him, according to the Attorney General, the lies that the NDC had said about him, because he said he can personally attest to that. That is what he said. So I do not think that he meant to say that the whole defense against the charge that is being prosecuted is what has, for lack of a better word, fallen flat.
But Bobby, if you consider that whether or not the cross-examination has been effective is a sole preserve of the judge, and the Attorney General makes a comment that in effect says we've been successful, and their case has been torn to shreds by our cross-examination. He's taking a place that is reserved for the judges,
Yes, Ivan, that is why I'm saying that my understanding of the tape that was played was that the Attorney General's comment is limited to the allegation against him as having attempted to interfere with the witness or the evidence or try to coach a witness that is being prosecuted. That is my understanding of his tape, not the entire case that is before the court in terms of the allegations or the criminal charges, because there is no charge before the court or there is no allegation of whether or not the Attorney General has interfered with a prosecution. It's not. What I mean is that the Attorney General is not on trial before the court. So unless your position is that what the Attorney General, when he said the cross-examination has fallen flat, for lack of a better word, that the case of the Mr. Japa or the accused persons has fallen flat, then he meant the entire defense in respect of the whole case, the charges that have been brought. If that is your understanding of his statements, then you can say that because he is making public statements in respect of a matter that he is prosecuting, then he may have gone beyond the boundaries that is allowed for legal practitioners. But my understanding was he picked one aspect of the entire case, that aspect being the allegations made against him personally for attempting to interfere with the witness or trying to get a witness to assist the prosecution of another accused person, that's being the unethical allegations or conduct that has been levied against him. My understanding of his statement was that all those allegations were lies and after he has cross-examined Mr. Jatta in respect of only those allegations, the lies or the deceit, in his opinion, by the NDC and Mr. Jatta have been found to be baseless. That is my understanding of his statement.
I mean, Eduji, I've heard you earlier raise questions about the Attorney General's pronouncements. Are you making a case for professional misconduct?
Evans, good evening and good evening to Bobby Banton. I think that sometimes let's revere the honor we have, even for our own selves. Ask Bobby, is there any other trial ongoing in this matter except the criminal trial? The said cross-examination that Godfrey Adame referenced, is it not in respect of the criminal matter? So where he sits in London and categorically says that atones you, when we all do know that the person who has the capacity, in fact, the skill set to make a determination as to whether the testimony is a lie or complete falsehood or untrue, is the judge. It's the judge. So what is Bobby talking about? Why can't we call a spade a spade? Ask my learned friend Bobby whether there's any other trial that is going on. The cross-examination, is it not in respect of the criminal trial? At the end of the day, it is not for the judge to evaluate the evidence offered in court and to make a determination whether a witness or accused person was testifying lied or peddled untruth, knowing the legal repercussion of peddling falsehood under oath. So why would Godfrey Adame allow the judge to come to that conclusion? And Bobby is there romanticizing this?
But
what is wrong with us?
But he's a political appointee, and the NDC went public
this one has nothing to do with political appointment.
With the tape that attacks his reputation. He's on a political platform.
Evans, I beg you. Godfrey makes a specific statement in relation to cross-examination. Is the cross-examination in respect of a professional misconduct inquiry? No. It is in respect of the criminal trial. Live criminal trial before a sitting high court, a court of appeal judge with additional high court responsibilities. You see, Evans, let me make this point. It is regrettable that our Attorney General is not learning. Painfully so. Painfully so. Look, this is a major matter involving the number one law enforcement officer of the Republic. Like I stated earlier, what is required at this critical moment is sober reflection. In fact, in the wisdom of the judge, she strongly advised. You see, the accounts have a saying, Obanyansafo yebunebe yankanasem. You understand? Obanyansafo yebunube yankanasem. A judge will hardly advise you if she hadn't seen certain things.
Well, this case is so running. I'm curious, will you bring this to the attention of the court?
Hello, Evans.
Yes.
Hello, Evans. Can you hear me?
I can, yes. Will you bring this to the attention of the court? Formally.
It's a team. It's a team. My worry is that I don't know how Godfrey Adame came to the conclusion that that testimony atones you. I don't know how he came to that conclusion. Because our responsibility as lawyers, he is for the prosecution, we are for the defense. Right? Our responsibility is to offer the evidence. It is the judge's responsibility at the end of the day to evaluate the evidence and make a determination whether the testimony so offered is false, is untrue, is a deception, or credible.
And
that is a special skill set of the judge.
You made that point earlier. So you suggest that the team will consider whether or not
on live program saying that there's a thin line. Where is the thin line?
Yeah, I mean, just for clarity, you mentioned that this is a team effort. Are you saying that the team will consider whether or not to bring this formally before the judge?
No, I say, look, it's a team. At the end of the day, the team will make a determination. We are worried, right? My client, particularly the Honorable Ato Forson, all this conspiracy from the words of Richard Japa. According to him, my client, the Honorable Minority Leader, Dr. Kesel Ato Forson, is the target of a broader conspiracy. And in fact, if you listen to part of the testimony, he makes the point that they wanted a conviction by May because that is what allows for a by-election to happen. My client is deeply worried that the Attorney General of the Republic of Ghana can engage in such a conspiracy at the highest level in the House of a Justice of the Supreme Court. We are extremely worried. And you see, Evans, these things do not send a good signal, even to foreign investors.
Yeah, and
if it is the case, that our Attorney General can go to the House of Judges.
Yeah, some of the things you've mentioned are all before the court. And in the spirit of the point you made earlier, that the judge will be making an evaluation and coming to a conclusion, I believe we're allowed to play before the court. But let me quickly get Bobby, very quickly in a minute. The comments that we've heard from the Attorney General, is it worth the judge taking a judicial notice of?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, first, I don't think the issue that you called me in respect of deals with the conversation that the Attorney General had with Mr. Japa.
No, it has to do with what he said on the public political platform.
Because on that issue, I have made my position clear on your network that if I were the Attorney General and these issues came up, I will step aside for it to be investigated, right? The issue that we are discussing now is whether the statements made by the Attorney General in London are statements that you consider as prejudicing the trial. And my position is that, and I cannot be forced to take anybody's position, is that if you listen carefully, devoid of any political lens or any emotions, the Attorney General was referring to the attacks against him. In any event, Evans, the cross-examination done by the Attorney General, not him, as in the Attorney General's office, the DPP, in respect of the text or the WhatsApp conversations of Mr. Japa had got nothing. We have not read any media reports in the last 2-3 sessions of the trial of the cross-examination making reference to the allegations that have been made, the charge sheet. It's all in respect of whether or not the Attorney General actually had these conversations, A, B, C, D, with Mr. Japa. And the Attorney General, who is also a Minister of Justice, the same way you have called my colleague, Mr. Edoji, in his capacity as Director of Legal, you did not introduce him as one of the, or you are calling him because he's one of the lawyers. You called him as Director of Legal. Now listen to this, Evans. As lawyers, we cannot discuss cases that we are personally involved in as lawyers in the media. You know that. I am sure that you know that. But you have Edoji explaining his position in that capacity. And so if he feels that he can explain or defend his client's actions or inactions in the media, why won't any other person who is in that capacity as a lawyer say that personal allegations have been made against me, and after cross-examination, those allegations are lies? Because the judge, in her ruling, has said she does not have the jurisdiction to determine whether Attorney General's conduct was unethical. She has said that. And so if those who have proposed or the proponents of the fact that the Attorney General's conduct was unethical, which I have said that if I was the Attorney General, I will step aside for the right investigation, whatever to be done. If they do not go to the appropriate channels, maybe if they feel strongly, maybe they can try the General Legal Council.
Yeah, Bobby, thank you very much. That there's lawyer Bobby Bansing sharing his thoughts on the comments we've heard from the Attorney General at a forum where the MPP met with supporters in London. The Attorney General was addressing them. I want to bring in Frank Davis, who's the chairman of the Constitutional and Legal Committee of the MPP. Joins us right now. Mr. Davis, thanks for your time here on News 9.
Thank you. Good evening to listeners and viewers.
And I know this is a case you follow very closely. You've heard the Attorney General's comments on this matter. Yourself, you were one time the Greater Accra president of the bar. His comments on the effectiveness or otherwise of the cross-examination, is this one that borders on professional misconduct?
What is professional misconduct? No one can just jump and use words just because people are using them. But let me put the matter in very sharp context. I've listened carefully to ADG, my very good friend, and I would sometimes urge him that when he is directly involved in a matter in court, he should refrain from coming on radio to talk, because what he is accusing of, allegedly, the same thing he's doing. You ask him a specific question, then he drives himself into conversations which took place at Justice Kulendi's house. Is that what you asked him? If he is a lawyer conducting the trial, he's part of the team. I would urge him. He's my very, very good friend, and he knows it. I will urge him that he should refrain from making comments while the trial proceeds. He should let others do it. Even that is, if they want to comment, he should let other lawyers do it, not him, because he's putting himself in the same position of the person he is accusing. But why? What is the problem? They have thrown mud, a lot of mud, calumny, cast aspersions, everything that they have to say about the conduct of the Attorney General. Some lawyers who are not even 6 years old at the bar, calling a criminal, a reckless person. And this is something that ADG does not find wrong. What did the Attorney General say? After all that they did, all that cooked tape that they put in the public space, the Attorney General has brought other pieces of evidence to contradict what Japa put in the public space. What did he say? He says after the cross-examination of Japa, unless maybe ADG you don't listen. I've listened to it 3 times. Because I myself am cautious. He said what was put in the public domain by Japa, after cross-examination, the lies have been exposed.
Isn't that a opinion of the judge?
Maybe I would not make such a comment. I am not Attorney General. But let's all bear in mind that his person has been so much spoiled in this matter. So if he has been able, in his own estimation, that the lies have been exposed, he was making a comment. And the judge is not bound to take the Attorney General's comment. So don't use that to whitewash the trial.
Mr. Davis, thank you very much. He's the chairman of the Constitutional and Legal Affairs Committee of the MPP. I want to hear from you too. You've heard the lawyers on this particular matter. Share your thoughts with me, 055-11-11997.
And just before we bring in George, we are fit for business. It's time for us to bring in our Thirsty Communities feature for today, and access to clean water in several communities in the Sagnarugu municipality in the northern region is terribly low, with majority of residents relying on hand-dug wells and dams. The scarcity of water has compelled several residents to use any available water they find their hands on just to survive. Let's head to the area now.
The luxury that comes with living in the city is the social amenities that you get. But that cannot be said about residents of Taha, Bogoyele, and other surrounding communities in the Sagnarugu municipality.
Bogoyele, Paumo, and Taha are communities in the Sagnarugu municipality, which means they are in the heart of the northern region capital, Tamale. But the water they rely on, this muddy, brown, and not wholesome at all. But that is what they use for everyday activity.
The major source of water for these communities are dams, and that is even in the rainy season. This muddy, milky water may look filthy to many, but for this community and several other communities, it is gold. For Latifa and her friends, it's a relief from walking long distance with the advent of the rains.
This is the only water that we have, and it is dirty. During rainy season that we get it, and dry season we don't have water.
A nurse at the Taha Health Center, Mohammed Walida, said even though the water is not fit for purpose, that is what the women bring when they are coming to the health center for delivery.
Yeah, we go through a lot, especially with the water crisis. My facility, for instance, if you come from delivery, there's no water for you to use unless you ask them to go back to their home and bring water. And this is the only source of water they have.
For Mohammed Al-Hassan and his friends, this is where they come to drink water whenever they are playing and are thirsty.
Madam was playing with this and drink the water.
The assemblyman for the area, Abdul Fattah Yahya, said even though there are pipelines in the area, the water does not flow.
Because if you trace to the Ghana Water Company, you realize that we have submitted no less than 3 separate letters to the Ghana Water Company Limited just to ensure that our pipeborne water challenges are solved. But unfortunately, they've not been able to solve our water problem.
And the thirsty communities will be in your community pretty shortly, especially if you are out of Accra, because that's what we are focusing on, and we're bringing that to the attention of the world. Hopefully, we're going to get some interventions on some of these key communities across the country. It's still live here on News Night. When we return, we're bringing you what to look forward to in our Impact Makers Awards this Saturday. George Affe is here with business. Hello, George.
Hi, Evans. And coming up, IMF gives blessings to deal reached between government and Eurobond holders on restructuring of more than $13 billion debt. And government is also expecting that this development could impact positively on the fortunes of the Ghana city. The business news on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. Kingdom Books and Stationery, Sinterstanks, and Pepsodent Herbal and Charcoal.
Hey, so as for you, every day you are just pressing your phone. Why? Are they paying you?
They are, Omar. The more I use my MTN, the more points I get. And I can use those points to get airtime, data, and even discounts at shops and restaurants.
Hey, so that is why all of you are always pressing your phones. And you won't tell us, so that we can enjoy some.
Oh, man.
There's always more to enjoy with MTN Rewards. Just keep talking, testing, and browsing all day, every day to collect your points and use it to redeem amazing offers and discounted freebies right away. There's so much available for you. So dial *550# and get your reward today. Let's go. Everywhere you go.
Kweku, have you heard what they are doing on MTN?
Son, we are so proud of you for setting up this hospital. I really love those hospital beds and waiting chairs. By the way, did you import them?
No, Dad, I didn't. I actually got them from Kingdom Books and Stationery right here in Ghana.
Wow. We also bought our office supplies, safes, executive desks and chairs from Kingdom, and they gave us expert advice on how to set up our office.
Guys, that makes 3 of us. I also got our sofa and bedroom sets, plus our dining hall furniture for our new home from Kingdom.
Wow, Mom, that makes 4 of us. I usually get my stationery items from Kingdom, and my teacher also mentioned that our classroom furniture was provided by Kingdom.
So there you have it. Whenever you're thinking about setting up an office or acquiring furniture for your home, etc., Kingdom Books and Stationery should be your first point of call. With over 40 years experience in the industry, we stock and supply a wide variety of globally sourced office and home furniture, stationery and equipment. Visit our head office, Osu Akwaje, or our office near the Osu Stadium. We're also in Tema Community 1, opposite Olam SHS, Kumasi KNUST campus, UCC Cape Coast, and now at the Marina Mall, Airport City. Or call us 0302 764101, 764209, or 762792. Visit our website www.kingdomgh.com.
We have a new leader in town. Obiarentie. Amanfo. Madam was Sibebre. When him say my baby, maybe more charcoal for whiter teeth. More charcoal. Not only that, maybe lemon. More lemon. Zinc for fresher breath. More zinc. And fluoride for stronger teeth.
Introducing the new President Charcoal packed with more power with a combination of charcoal and lemon for naturally whiter teeth. Grab yours now. This advert is FDA approved.
Hello, my name is Mami Akua, an entrepreneur and a mother of two. My work keeps me busy most of the time, and sometimes it takes me away from my family. But the safety and health of my family is very important to me. As a working mother, I cannot afford to take any chances when it comes to matters of health. That is why I signed up for a family health care plan from Equity Health Insurance. My family and I have access to over 700 hospitals, clinics, opticians, dentists, pharmacies, and diagnostic centers across the length and breadth of Ghana. With Equity Health Insurance, I no longer have to worry about medical bills. Anytime a member of my family visits a hospital, Equity Health Insurance has got my family and I covered. What about you? Who has got you covered?
Call Equity Health Insurance on 050-660-7910 and talk to them about your family health needs now. Visit equityhealthinsurance.com for more information. Equity Health Insurance, here for you.
What is football? I elevated Inter to the pinnacle of European football by winning the treble. I beat the unbeatable Barcelona with Real Madrid, breaking all records on the way. I feel the hearts of the Romans rejoice after winning their first European title. I am relentless. I am ambition. I am a winner. I am Jose Mourinho. I am football.com.
Place your bets now.
Joy 99.7 FM.
You're welcome back to Business on Newsnight. Now, IMF has given its blessings to the deal that government has reached with the Eurobond holders. Now, this was contained in the term sheet on the agreement that reached with these commercial creditors. There is more in the following report.
The term sheet revealed that the IMF staff have confirmed that the agreement in principle is in line or compatible with program parameters in the context of the IMF's second review of Ghana's 3-year program under the extended credit facility. This assessment will have to be officially confirmed before the next IMF board meeting this month for the approval of the second review. Based on the preliminary analysis, the Official Creditor Committee considered that this agreement in principle is a good basis for a consultation of the OCC members in order to provide promptly the collective assessment of the committee regarding the comparability of treatment principle.
And that is a business desk report. Meanwhile, government has proposed to these bondholders that they would actually forgo some $4.7 billion of their claims and provide cash flow of relief for approximately $4.4 billion during the IMF program. These concessions, the statement or the relief says that are given in constraints faced by Ghana and are essential to achieve the debt relief required to restore the sustainability to the country under the joint IMF program and the World Bank initiative. Now, government has indicated it's expecting the Ghana cedi to stabilize firmly against the US dollar in the coming days. The local currency has struggled to stabilize despite some development in the economy. Now, some analysts have argued that this delay was because of us reaching a deal with the Eurobond holders was a major factor. Now, this view is also shared by the Minister of Finance, Dr. Mohamed Amina, who signaled some major turning point for the local currency.
And wait until the announcement. The confidence in our economy is going to come back stronger because the world is no longer interested in investing in Ghana because of those debt restructuring. After tomorrow, it will be a different story. Watch the cedi to the dollar after tomorrow. I know you are interested in that story. Let's watch it and see. The confidence will come. The investors will return to Ghana. And the growth trajectory would even become clearer for all of us. So this election is an election for us to win. The NDC can no longer campaign on the economy. Our record is better than their record. On the size of the economy, we've done better than them. On per capita income, we've done better than them. On job creation, we've done better than them.
Finance Minister Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam. Let's still stay on the economy and these debt restructuring because government has revised its end-of-year growth to 5%. Now, this is higher than the 3.2% projected for 2024. Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam has been given more details on why government is optimistic about hitting this growth target for this year.
This economy will grow, and it will grow faster than everybody thinks. By the end of this year, we are supposed to grow at 3.2%. But I can tell you, we'll grow at 5% or even more than 5%. This is because of the pragmatic policies we are implementing as a government.
Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam is the finance minister. Now, financial economist Professor Lord Mensah stated that he is not convinced about the assurances coming from government. He's therefore pushing for more details on this deal struck with the Eurobond holders.
How would the economy look like? Those are the questions we need to ask ourselves. But as we speak now, we are not servicing our external debt, but we can see the exchange rate, the cedi depreciating against the dollar and all the other major currencies. So after, achieving this restructuring, where are we going to cough the dollars? And I heard the finance minister talk about saving Ghana about 8 billion cedis. Why did you go in for debt restructuring? You went in for debt restructuring because you don't have the money. You have the money to save. Then why did you go in for debt restructuring and in some cases restricting and suspending external debt payment? So effectively, what it tells you is that we don't have, the dollars as it's supposed to be. So let's see the realities on the ground if we should resume, our debt payment after the restructuring. But like I said, the restructuring can only give us a signal that there's hope, but it doesn't transmit into reality.
Financial economist Professor Lord Mensah. Now, UK Ghana Chamber of Commerce is asking government to do more in addressing challenges affecting the country's exchange rate regime. Now, Executive Director of the Chamber, Joba Chema, says that she is hopeful that this will boost trading activities of members and thereby stabilizing the local currency going forward. She spoke to Joy Business at the UK Ghana Chamber of Commerce Hat and Flower Show.
Just like any other business in Ghana, it's a tough economic environment for us, but we are hopeful. I mean, without going into details, the business sentiments are that, we've seen the cedi depreciate, there's exchange rate challenges for people that import equipment and other things from abroad, but we are very, very positive about things turning around. We are confident that things will turn around. And so we are looking forward to a better second half of the year.
Joba Chama is the Executive Director for the UK Ghana Chamber of Commerce. And that's all for business on Newsnight. Back to you, Evans and MFR.
And this is your election headquarters. Election headquarters is always brought to you by Petrosol Clean Fuel in full quantity, CIMA, the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants, AICP and CIMA together as Association of International Certified Professional Accountants, German Ozone Medical Center, Alternative Therapy, Dental, Wellness and Beauty, Chopbox Technologies, a convenient service, and Youth Breed Foundation, bridging gaps for positive youth development.
And tonight, the Tamale High Court has placed an injunction on Dr. Mahama Tia Kabiru, restraining him from holding himself as the elected parliamentary candidate of the New Patriotic Party for the Wale Wale constituency in the Northeast region.
The ruling was delivered today by Justice Richard Kunyapao. Follows a challenge to the election results by the incumbent Member of Parliament, Hajia Raliba Zuwaratu, who is hoping to lead the party in that constituency again in the disputed January parliamentary primaries. Dr. Kabiru, who works as a vice presidential special advisor, secured 345 votes to Hajia's 338 votes. In other words, it was very close. The resolution talks between both parties broke down, forcing Hajia Lariba to resort to the court. Dr. Kabiru, in an earlier interview, said the decision will affect his campaign in the constituency.
The High Court has spoken based on the facts as presented to them by the plaintiff. We've also submitted our defense as the first defendant in this matter. My lawyer argued forcefully that the grant of such a relief interlocutory injunction will disadvantage me and will cause irreparable damage to my cause, as it were, in trying to represent the New Patriotic Party in the upcoming parliamentary primaries. The judge, in his wisdom, felt like the status quo needed to be maintained, and he didn't want to alter that. He gave his reason to the effect that he doesn't want the plaintiff to be prejudiced in the event that the status quo, as it were, prima facie, I'm the candidate-elect, or I'm the parliamentary candidate-elect, but he doesn't want to disturb the status quo in the unlikely event or in the event the plaintiff has a case. So he was maintaining the status quo. So we are still reviewing the judgment. We've asked for a copy of the judgment. We would look at it, we'll look at the reasoning in extenso, and then we can advise ourselves thereof.
Let's bring in the Deputy General Secretary of the MPP, Haruna Mohammed, joins us right now. Mr. Mohammed, thanks for your time here on Newsnight. Very quickly, you have 5 months to go before the elections, and yet you don't have a settled candidate for that particular constituency.
Thank you very much, Eva. I say good evening to your charity viewers and listeners out there. Yes, today we have heard that the court has ruled on the injunction that has been placed on our candidate for Wale constituency. We are not abiding party. We will look at the decision of the court, and then whatever the things that the legal party has to going forward.
Apologies, terrible connection to him. We can hear him, but that's something we need to really get clarity about, as how the party plans to resolve this particular matter, because it's in court. Because as you know, this injunction is pending the determination of the substantive case itself. And there's a very possibility that this may travel very close to the elections, and the party pursued an out-of-court arrangement that did not work. As we've been hearing tonight, the youth groups in the area, particularly supporting the party, have decided that they will be protesting in the wake of the decision of the court. So this is a very fluid situation there. Several moving parts of the party to deal with. Still in the election headquarters. And
we're hearing from Alan Kojo-Tremantin this evening, and he's actually launched his Movement for Change. That's the Great Transformational Plan. That's the GTP, with a focus on reducing inflation, stabilizing the depreciating cedi, and maximizing agricultural productivity to help grow the economy.
Conduct a comprehensive financial and technical audit of port operations to identify and block revenue leakages at the ports, including but not limited to mechanisms to address trade misinvoicing and transfer pricing. Enhance the collection of rent tax, property tax, capital gains tax, investment income tax, and sale taxes. Review existing rates for road tolls and expand the application across various road networks.
That's Alan Tremantin. The other thing he said today is that he's going to abolish the import duties on all imported second-hand parts, and that's something that you like, considering that you're engaged in a fleet of Uber vehicles right now. Pardon? Let's quickly close this matter with Haruna Mohammed. We lost you briefly. I was interested to find out, how is the party planning to resolve this, considering that you have 5 months on election and you don't have a settled candidate? What are you going to do?
Yes, Evans, the party is looking at several options as to how to resolve this matter. But however, you know that the party is a national party, and we believe in democracy. We believe in the rule of law. So once the pronouncement has been made by the court on a matter of injunction, the party will look at the necessary matters or issues that have been looked at by the judge, and this particular judgment that has been passed. You know that the substantive case is not something that has been looked at for now. It is a ruling that has been placed on him for him not to be carrying himself as the parliamentary candidate elect for the Wale constituency. So the party has instituted a number of measures to be looked at. Not far too long, you saw that this matter was referred to the party per the Director of Elections decisions to go to the court on the instructions of the party for us to look at it on outside court settlement. This is something that has not been able to be reached completely but the party is on it. A 3-member committee has been set up, headed by the chief of staff, the general secretary of our party, and the chairman of the council of elders of the party. So this is something the party has put so much keynote on it, but this ruling that has come out is not something that is going to stop all these formalities that we have put it through to be able to resolve this matter.
So you're still pursuing an out-of-court settlement? You also pursue the out-of-court settlement?
For now, what the court has said is something that we have to look at, because the substantive case is yet to come before the court. The court is going to proceed to look at the substantive matter within the jurisdiction in which the case was presented to the court.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's Haruna Mohammed there. He's the Deputy General Secretary of the NPP. Let's talk about something you're looking forward to. It's happening on Saturday. Question is, where will you be Saturday evening?
Yeah, the Accra International Conference Center, and 1 out of the 10 nominees shortlisted will be crowned this year's Joy News Impact Maker. Well, we've been looking back on some of the winners from last year, a year after being recognized at the maiden edition. Richard Oku recounts that the award has shot him into a limelight he could have never attained on his own. Here's what he's been telling us.
It's an honor to be selected and awarded, appreciating what you have done. That alone is a great honor. It's a feeling that in Ghana, at a particular point in time, in a very specific sector, you are the person that Joy News and others have chosen as the best so far within that particular sector. And I think it's a great honor.
A great honor indeed.
Yes, and we'll get the Joy News Impact Maker for this year at the Accra International Conference Center this Saturday. You want to make your way there, get ready, and let's go. And that's how we wrap up today's edition of Newsnight. We're getting ready for Italy versus Croatia in the Euros this evening, and we have live commentary. Musbao is here with the very latest.
Yes, looking forward to this one, Musbao.
Yeah, big game. We're looking forward to it. Is the final game in that group. Italy need a win or a draw to qualify. For Croatia, they are lying bottom of the table, and they need a win. They need a win. So we're going to wait to see how the game unfolds tonight here on your Super Station. We're going to bring you live commentary here, so do stay with us very, very shortly.
Okay.